When we exchange the truth of God for a lie, we end up worshiping created things rather than the creator.
He's one of one. There's creator and there's not creator. There's God and not God. But in their sense, there are these kind of lower realms of divine counsel that he gathers and he talks to us.
Every spirit that denies that Jesus Christ came in the flesh is of the Antichrist.
All right, everybody, welcome to Strong Man Nation podcast. I'm here in studio with Pastor Kyle McMullen and my brother, Carey McPherson. If you're new to the show, Carey's executive director of Strong Man Nation, also helps lead worship at Grace City Church here in Wenatchee, Washington, and is my two kids' favorite professor at Vector College. Pastor Kyle McMullen sat on my knee as a 4-year-old because I was in his dad's youth group, and now he's helping lead the college group here at Grace City Church, as well as kind of visionary leader of Vector College, 2-year Christian Liberty Arts program. Incredible job. And we may have some very exciting news about Vector College in the near future that we can't share with you today, but he and I are, he's my favorite kitchen buddy. We get in the Vision kitchen and cook it up. And so glad to have him here. Kyle is also one of the finest theologians I know. And so for those of you that follow Grace City Church and listen to me preach, a lot of insights I get from kicking around with these guys. Carey is a world-class Bible teacher, and Kyle is world-class theologian. So grateful to have you on the show today, guys. Thanks for being here.
Fun to be here.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to jump into the unseen realm. If you have not been following, we're going to do something a little different in the Strong Man Nation podcast. The next 8 weeks, I'm preaching a series called The Unseen Realm at Grace City Church. If you don't follow us, you can, I don't know where you'd go. I think we drop all those podcasts here on this podcast too. Yeah, so you can follow the sermons here. And then 4 weeks in the unseen realm, and then 4 weeks in what we're calling the art of war. And that's going to be on the nature of spiritual warfare. And so it's going to be a great series for unbelievers, new believers alike. I think it's going to be really helpful. I've been following Jesus for nigh on 40 years, and I've been finding it very insightful and interesting in my study. And there's a lot of new things I've been processing from last week, so I'm excited about that. But what we're going to do is we're going to drop these podcasts on Monday, and they're going to be us kind of processing through kind of the editing floor stuff that doesn't make it into the sermon. And so talk about stuff I couldn't get to during the sermon as well. We got a ton of folks sending in questions. We've got dozens of questions here. I'm not sure we'll get to them today. If you'd like to send in a question, but don't go to Grace City Church, I think the guys will put a link. Caleb will put a link in the comments below. We'd love to hear your questions. We're getting a ton of questions. There's obviously a ton of interest in this topic. I mean, my gosh, beyond what I thought was out there. And the younger kids are helping me realize it's everywhere. In my sermon on Sunday, walk through probably 30 different cultural examples from movies, and basically every major blockbuster that our culture has told us in story form in the last 30 years has been something around the unseen realm, the supernatural, the spiritual realities. And so very fascinating, from Star Wars to Indiana Jones to Avengers and the Marvel comic book series. All the blockbusters are telling stories about paranormal activities outside other realms because it piques our interest. And I think the point I made in the sermon is that there's a reason it's a $1 trillion industry. It's because all of us have these questions about what is there beyond what we can see. And so I think top 3 or 4 Netflix shows, all-time English-speaking films, are all related to paranormal, supernatural, spiritual storyline. So very, very fascinating topic. That's what we're going to be on the next 8 weeks. It should be hopefully good listening to. We're going to get into angels next week, demons the next week, the paranormal the week after, and then talk about the nature of spiritual war. What is it? The point of the Art of the War series is that we think people are in a war they're not aware of. Right. And if you're not aware of the war you're in, you're going to get your butt kicked. And so it should be really good. So send in your questions. We'd love to get to them. Include your name if you want, and we'll share your first name on the air. I got a quick story before we jump into the pod. I was just with a buddy of mine, actually my cousin. He's a part of an incredible ministry. They rescue girls out of human trafficking and sex slavery, sex work, and it's an organization that's been around for I think 40 years. I asked him to send me the name. I forget the name. He's going to text it to me here. I can mention it on the podcast here. But the story of the founder was remarkable, and he was just at my house an hour ago telling me the story. Wow. The founder he's like 4 years old, or he's like 5 or 6 years old, I think, something like that. And there's a traveling evangelist comes to their church and said, would you give your life, and give an offering? They pass the offering bucket around, and the kid doesn't have any money, but he puts the offering, whatever you call those things you pass around, offering plate,
Yeah.
puts it on the ground, stands it in, and says, I don't have any money, but I have me, you can have me.
Wow.
And he's off and running, preached over 20,000 times in, 100 different countries, whatever.
Wow.
And God calls him to rescue these women. And so the story goes how it was founded. He goes into this red light district somewhere in India with a bullhorn, putting his own life at jeopardy, of course, because he's taking these women out of the work that makes their pimps money. Starts preaching the gospel on a bullhorn. 100 women come out.
Wow.
They all get saved.
Wow.
And then they tell him, we can't leave, but would you take our children?
Wow.
And he's like, take your children. They take them back up into their rooms, and there's 37 children there, and they're raising these kids under the beds that they do their work on.
Wow.
And so he takes these 37 kids and starts his first rescue home. And now he's got homes in 40 countries on 5 continents. They do incredible work. The point of the story is story after story of girls coming to their homes, 10, 8, 9, 10, 12, not knowing how they got there, but something led me here.
Right.
Is what they'll say.
Wow.
Is a friendly man brought me here, or a soldier brought me here, or
Yes.
they have these stories of like something led them there.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's kind of how it works. Just angels bring kids to our house.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm like, I believe it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Would it be in the realm of possibility in a Christian worldview that God would use angels to steer children out of slavery and to be rescued? That works in my worldview. So stories are out there, they're endless. But let's do this. Let's go back to the sermon. I introduced a table of worldviews in the sermon. I don't know if the guys have it. They can throw it up if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening online, you'll just have to follow along here. The table was very fascinating, and it contrasted 6 different worldviews. And the reason I think this is helpful is because I think there are a lot of Christians that have non-Christian, pagan, atheistic, and spiritualistic components of their worldview in their own worldview.
For sure.
So I was going to read across the top here for those listening. I think these might be helpful to understand. So the naturalist worldview, their view of the supernatural is that they reject the existence of the supernatural, right? And so they reject it outright. I was reading Lee Strobel's book. I don't know if you can see it here. For those who are watching, if you're listening, I'm holding up a book to the camera. Lee Strobel's book, Seeing the Supernatural, Investigating Angels, Demons, Mystical Dreams, Near-Death Encounters, and Other Mysteries of the Unseen World. He talks about, he asked the question, does science put God out of a job? And I want to read a couple of quotes here that were really helpful underneath, and this would be the naturalist worldview. He says, scientific materialism, this is a quote, scientific materialism holds that any true and meaningful knowledge that we may gain about life, mind, and the universe can only be gotten through the analytical method of science. This is John Hott, professor of theology at Georgetown University. Everything else is sheer speculation, if not wishful thinking. So naturalists would say any view of the supernatural is speculation and wishful thinking. Another guy says, since Einstein, the natural sciences have only risen in prestige and cultural influence, and the scientific community is now widely regarded as the ultimate authority on truth about the world. Thus, to be a scientifically literate person is to be a materialist or naturalist, to believe that the only objective reality consists of matter and energy behaving according to the laws of physics and chemistry. Of course, the spiritual implications are obvious. In the world of psychological professor Jessica Tracy, University of British Columbia, scientific materialism has placed a clear-cut kibosh on the possibility of a supernatural deity running the show. In short, our choice seems to be science or superstition, and if we take science seriously, we can't take the idea of God seriously. Thoughts? Good. Somebody else.
Yeah.
I actually have one more quote here I want to read. This is very interesting. A major reason that materialism disproves the existence of supernatural is the concept of scientism is unrefutable. But in reality, the concept of scientism is actually self-refuting. This is Lee Strobel again. And this is what I found so helpful. Consider the sentence, science is the only begetter of truth.
Right.
That in itself is not a scientific statement that can be tested by the scientific method, but rather it's a philosophical assertion.
Yes.
It's self-contradictory,
Right.
akin to saying all English sentences are 4 words in length.
Yes.
Consequently, the very foundation of scientism is built on scientifically unverifiable assumptions. The statement, the only knowledge we can have but reality is that which has been properly tested in the hard sciences, is not itself a statement about reality that has been properly tested by the hard sciences.
Yes.
So, this man points out, it cannot be a knowledge claim about reality. And then he goes on to give us an example, and then I'll kick it to you guys. In fact, he said there are things we know with greater certainty in theology or ethics than certain claims in science. For example, consider 2 assertions. Number 1, electrons exist. And number 2, it is wrong to torture babies for the fun of it. And this is J.P. Moreland talking. What do we know with greater certainty, he asks. The claim about the baby is the correct answer. Why? Because the history of the electron has gone through various changes since the particle was discovered. It is not unreasonable to believe that in 50 to 100 years, scientific depictions of the electron will change so much that scientists will no longer believe that what we mean by an electron exists today. So I thought that was a really interesting point. It's like all of us intuitively know that it's wrong to torture babies for fun, but we can't know with certainty. We know that with certainty. Like there's no scenario where that's okay.
Yep.
We can't know with certainty what an electron is because the definition through science is constantly changing.
Right.
Therefore, science isn't the end all because you can't even test sentences that science puts forth without using philosophy as an answer.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You have a thought?
I was gonna say that the science can't even. So the claim of the naturalist worldview is, or the materialist worldview, right?
Yeah.
The claim is that reality is totally, it consists completely in the physical world, just matter.
Yes.
Like that's all
Yes.
that, like materialistic naturalist is just matter, physical matter. That's all that there is, right? There is no supernatural beyond that. Exactly what we've been talking about. The irony there is that science, and this is kind of to build off of that last quote you were reading there. The irony is science ultimately can't even tell us what physical stuff is made of, because all you have to do is just ask one more question, right? So it's like, well, what is this table made of? It's like, okay, well,
Wood.
appears to be some kind of wood. Okay,
Right.
wood. Okay, well, what is wood made of, right? And well, maybe you might say fibers or something like that. And
Right.
you keep going. You get about 3 questions in, and you're down to the atomic level. It's like, well, eventually you're going to get to the point where you say this table is made of atoms. And if you keep going beyond that, right? Well, what are atoms made of? Now we're just at some point you get to the point where you're just making up words, right?
Right.
Quarks and leptons, and it's just exactly that guy's point. Is like
Right.
the scientific definition of something like an electron is constantly in flux and changing because science, the worldview that claims that the physical world is all that there is, actually cannot even tell us what physical stuff is ultimately made of.
Totally.
They just keep making up words, right? And so the Christian worldview would come along and say, well, at the end of the day, physical stuff is made up of it draws it ultimately you land on God, right? You keep going down and down and down. It's like, well, what's that made of? What's that made of? What's that made of? And eventually you'd have to say, well, it's made of the creative word of God, because that's how God made the world. He spoke it into existence. So it's
not made up of God. It's made by God.
It's
That's
made
what
by
you're
God,
saying?
right? It's made by God. It's like it's his spoken words. Here they are, right?
Yeah.
Let there be light, and here it is.
Yes.
And so there's great irony in that, where as soon as you try to say that all that there is the physical stuff that exists, and then you go about examining that physical stuff with science, you can't even explain what you are saying is the center of everything. You can't even explain it with the worldview that makes that claim.
Yeah. Yep. Well, neither two can. We talked about this last week. Science And we're not anti-science. We are pro-science. Study the world God made. Some of the greatest scientists who've made the greatest contributions to humanity were being driven by love for the glory of God and the exploration of the world he's made.
Yep.
So this is all wonderful. The danger is when we replace God with the science that we're using to enjoy him and study his world. And so science can give us incredible explanations for how the heart works. Because my wife has had heart surgery and has heart issues, and so I've been baptized into this whole world of how the heart works. It's incredible. It's intricate. It's amazing. In some ways, it's very simple. In other ways, it's mind-blowing. But they can't tell you why the heart works.
Right. Right.
Why does it continually beat?
I'm like, what keeps my wife's heart beating? This is wild. They're like, well, it's electrical impulses. And I'm like, well, what's that plugged into? It's like, what's the battery running that? Or where's the cord go to the generator? Like, what tells it to keep impulsing?
Correct.
And they're like, we don't know.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's where the conversation, the spiritual realm, the creative, life-giving work of God, a soul.
Yes.
Right. I mean, we've all been with, so the naturalists would say there is no soul. It's physical matter, biology. When you die, you just rot. That's it. And we all know that people who espouse that, and that's the atheistic worldview. That's people we know and love, in our own personal life. People who are popular personalities in our culture, very intelligent people, are like, nothing happens in the afterlife. It's just, you're done. It's biology, it's science. There's nothing else happening. It's like either they've never been with a person when that person's died, or they're actively suppressing what they know to be true but don't have an explanation for it, a la Romans 1. Right. And because all of us, especially as pastors, we've all walked with people through death, and we've been with many people when they die. Something leaves the room.
Right.
It's like they're there, and then they are not there.
Right.
So like when my grandpa died, it's not like, my grandpa's still there, he's just dead. It's like, my grandpa's not there. Like what made my grandpa is gone, and the shell his spirit inhabited is still here. I think what Christianity does that's unique is that Christianity places, so naturalism would place value on the body and not just devalue the soul, say the soul doesn't exist, the spirit doesn't exist.
Right.
The spiritualist or the pantheist goes way over here to the extent of like the body is either unimportant or not good. It's the spirit that matters. It's the Christian worldview, I believe, that brings both, acknowledges the reality of and the value of both. The reality of the spirit and the value of the body. And while they be temporarily separated into death, the new heavens and new creation in our Christian theology is the reuniting of our soul with our resurrected body. So they come together, and now both are in this new one realm, one reality experience of new heavens and new earth that's going to be ecstatically amazing.
Yep.
Thoughts?
I think that even non-believers, they admit that they think there is a spiritual realm at every funeral you go to of a non-believer, because everyone says this person has died, we're going to miss them, but what?
They're still with me, or they're looking down on us, or
because they inevitably know that
that is interesting.
There's something beyond just the physical matter.
That's right.
That is interesting. Death really does, I think, put this issue on the table.
Yes.
With our culture and with humanity. And as a Christian, that's a really good point, Carey. You go to certain funerals and you hear a lot of
hoping and wishing.
Bad theology. You hear a lot of hopeful thinking. You hear a lot of sentimentalism that sometimes doesn't line up with their stated beliefs.
Right.
Yes.
Which is why in the sermon, if you listen to it, we start with worldview. A worldview is a comprehensive and cohesive understanding of how the world works. It's how you answer all of life's major questions. And to your point, Carey, I think it's really well said. If you're listening and not a believer, or not a believer in Christ, or not a Christian, or maybe you're an atheist, it's like, ask yourself what comes out of your mouth when you go to a funeral.
Right.
Because don't say things to make yourself feel better or other people feel better. Don't get sappy. Say what you believe.
Be consistent with your worldview.
Yeah. Well, here we are, and that's it.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if you go to a funeral and want there to be something more, and find yourself saying things like, he's in a better place. What is that place? How would he get there? what validated his entrance? Who knows? But he's in a better place, right? Or they're watching down on us now. They're looking down on us now. Or they're always with me in my heart. What does that even mean?
Right.
If you're working from a naturalistic worldview or an atheistic worldview, keep working across the top. Rationalists, their view of the supernatural is they demand everything to be demonstrated through reason. And so this is like a step towards acknowledging the supernatural realm, but it's still reticent. Spiritualism affirms nebulous, impersonal spiritual world.
Right.
And so this gets into forces, right? The spiritual realm is energy, it's force, it's feeling. And one of the distinctions I think you've made, I heard you say, Kyle, before, is in the Christian worldview, the spiritual realm is uniquely and distinctly personal.
Yes.
What do you mean when you said that?
Yeah, so it's not that in Christianity, it's not that we think about the spiritual world as these nebulous forces. It's that, no, the unseen realm is populated with persons, just like the seen realm is populated with persons. So it's not just it's not just the ethereal force of good or evil or this or that. It's no, there are actual angels loyal to God, and there are actual angels that have fallen. Satan being the chief one of those, and the Bible tells us that a third of the angels fall with him. And so, but these are actually personal creatures, just like we are personal creatures. They're not men and women, human beings,
Engendered.
right? Not engendered as we are, but they are persons, right?
Interesting to think about. That'll come up later with angels and demons. Demons are non-gendered spirits. Interesting to make connections there to what's happening in our culture.
For sure.
The degendering of humanity.
Yes.
In horrifically destructive ways. So if you have an enemy whose mission is to steal, kill, and destroy, and they live in a non-gendered world, interesting to think about how they would go about doing that to those of us in the human realm.
Right.
A side conversation we'll get into later, but punchline, transgenderism is wickedly demonic.
Yes.
Keep going.
John Frame has a quote, God doesn't rule the universe by pushing buttons. He rules the universe by sending messengers. So he is...
Say that again. God doesn't rule the universe by pushing buttons.
Right.
God rules the universe by sending messengers.
Sending messengers. So I think the idea he's getting at there is that there is personal participation on the part of the creature, both in the seen realm and in the unseen realm.
Yeah.
There's personal participation in God's plan. So God is in control.
Yeah.
He's like, the big theology word for that is he's sovereign. He's sovereign. He's in control. It's his show. It's his story. It's his plan. But he's not executing his plan through automation.
Yeah.
Robotic, mechanical automation. He's actually created creatures that have personalities and personhood, and he executes his will and his plan through those persons.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important, and that I do think is the distinguishing difference between spiritualism and Christianity. Spiritualism is impersonal
Forces.
force. Yep.
Yep.
Christianity starts with a personal God who creates personal creatures.
So we think about like Star Wars, which is a cultural phenomenon. It's a story that my generation has grown up as. It's ubiquitous. It's in the cultural air we breathe. Beloved characters, incredible music. John Williams, incredible storytelling. Was Steven Spielberg involved in Star Wars at all?
George Lucas.
It was George Lucas, but so Steven Spielberg was on the Indiana Jones side.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yep.
But interesting, part of a definition of worldview is not only what you believe and how you answer the world, but it's the stories you tell.
For sure.
Worldview entails stories.
Yep.
Like I said on Sunday, Christianity is not a set of rules; it's a story we find ourselves in. And so these legendary storytellers, we were talking about this offline the other day. There are things when we watch as theologians, as Christian men, when we watch these movies, there are things that I feel like they're getting close. Right? They are tapping into things, especially Marvel and themes in Marvel. Marvel only works if there's a really bad guy and a really clear good guy, and the good guys win. Because nobody wants to go to a movie where the bad guy wins.
Right.
Nobody.
Right.
Why is that? And And nobody wants to go to watch a movie where the good guy's a slime ball. I mean, there is a niche market for that,
Sure.
but they doesn't break in trillions. The $1 trillion industry is there's a really good guy who goes on a hero's journey
Yep.
and transforms himself from being a narcissistic billionaire into a self-sacrificing philanthropist. You know what I mean? And then the franchise ends with him performing a sacrificial act where he gives his own life to bring everyone back from death.
Yes.
It's like, where'd that story come from?
Yep.
like that's our story.
That's right.
That's Jesus' story. And like what makes Tony Stark so popular is that he was acting like Jesus.
That's right.
What makes Iron Man so compelling was that they wrapped him in a shiny form of what Christ has already done. Mm-hmm. Interesting to think about. Mm-hmm. If you want to make $1 billion and you want to tap into what the longing and desire in the heart of every human, just be more like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And put some good music to it, and it's crazy.
That's right.
So keep working across the spiritualist, the pantheist. This is an interesting worldview. Their view is supernatural. They blur the line between the natural and the supernatural, essentially making the universe divine. All of the universe is divine.
Yeah.
The spirit is in the trees and the rocks and in you and in me. And the afterlife is a return to nature. So individuals, dissipate into a larger divine unity. Mm-hmm. This is part Star Wars too, right? This force in all of us.
Yeah.
It's in the swamp and in the rocks that you can move. And I hear a lot of pantheistic-esque thinking in some Christians' thinking. Now, the soul in the pantheistic worldview is not separate from the body. All is one single aspect of divine reality. Mm-hmm. Pantheism. It's in a lot of storylines, and it's in a lot of Christians' thinking. And then all the way over to the right is superstition. This assumes existence of the unseen, where minor forces influence mundane events. Mm-hmm. This is the unproven, irrational causal links and traditions between, like, a walk under a ladder, bad luck. A black cat runs in front of you, you're screwed. Yeah. You break a mirror, you're It's like, this is stupid, right?
Hocus pocus.
It's hocus pocus. Yeah. There's a wide variety of impersonal spiritual agents acting in a transactional way designed to influence luck or fortune by throwing salt over your shoulder, kind of things. And quite honestly, that is in some Christians' thinking. There's kind of like, well, I want to make sure I don't want to tempt fate. We talked about one of the things that Christianity did was it dispelled fear of creation. In kind of these pagan cultures, there was like, oh, we ticked off the sun gods, and so now it's cooking our harvest, or we ticked off the cloud gods and now we haven't gotten any rain, or we displeased the mountain god and now it blew up and buried our village in a volcano. And so that led to making all sorts of sacrifices to appease these gods, driven by fear, hoping that they don't get run over by these impersonal, nameless, faceless, persnickety, kind of capricious gods.
Right.
To Christianity dispelling that. No. There's God and not God. This is all creation. This is all ruled by God. There's only one God that you should live to please, and He's a very kind, gracious, non-capricious God who's gentle and kind and long-suffering. And so Christianity dispelled fear of creation, and then that was kind of what led to one of the sparks of the Enlightenment, right? And so we don't have to fear creation, we can study it. So the pendulum swings from fearing creation to studying it. Now creation now becomes the end. Right. Creation becomes the explanation. We have the power. And in many ways, I think in the Enlightenment was, this would be an interesting conversation, the Enlightenment was the ideological or philosophical version of Tower of Babel.
Right.
Perhaps.
Yeah, totally.
Where we're going to explain the world by ourselves.
Yeah.
We are going to give all the answers because we have built the biggest telescope or we've studied the smallest molecule. We now can give explanation for that which before lesser intelligent people attributed to myths and imagination, we can now explain.
Right.
So the attempt to explain away God with science rather than allow science to as a catapult to worship God. Interesting to think through evolution of human thought and philosophy
Yeah.
that is sprinkled into entertainment and sprinkled into every funeral you've gone to. It's out there.
Yeah. That's
gonna
where
say
criticism of the Bible then came. So the sun doesn't, Bible says the sun rises, but science now explains that the sun's not rising, the earth is rotating. So criticism towards the Bible and then criticism towards miracles that can't happen because the outside world can't enter into the physical world.
Right.
So science does has its end. It can tell you how to make an atomic bomb. It can't tell you whether you should drop it on Hiroshima or not.
Right. Right. That's good.
Which
Yeah, that's
requires
really good.
which requires where are we getting our morals from?
Yep.
Because we can't get them from science.
Yes.
A morality compass, a philosophical compass, a right and wrong. Yeah, that's really good. In the sermon, I talked about the starting point for Christianity in relationship to the supernatural is Genesis 1, verse 1. That in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And so pillar number 1 as foundational for understanding the supernatural rightly so that we're neither indifferent towards it nor afraid of it, but that we understand it rightly in the world that God made according to Christian worldview would be that in the beginning, God created heaven and the earth. So God is one of one, and there is one reality, two realms. Kind of like the foundational pieces. There's God and there's not God. We were talking offline about that, and you had some thoughts I thought were interesting.
Yeah. So the fundamental distinction of Christianity, there is God and there is not God. So all reality falls into one of those two things.
Yes.
And you said in your sermon, right, so greatly, it's like, check yourself. If you're not God, right, if you didn't create the heavens and the earth, you're in the not God
You're
category.
in category 2.
Category 2, right? So what's interesting is that Christianity is actually the only worldview that can actually have that distinction hold up. That the distinction between, ultimately the distinction between creator and creation.
Yeah.
That's what we're saying, right? So God and not God, creator and creation. And so all these other worldviews we had up there on the chart, they all, every single other worldview collapses into just everything is just one.
Yeah.
Everything is just one, right? It's just the universe. Like, it's really interesting. Naturalism and pantheism are kind of the same thing.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So the naturalist looks at the world with microscopes and telescopes and
Right.
is very scientific about how he goes about it. And the pantheist might be, singing, talking about Mother Nature and the trees and the spirits and the weeping willows and all this kind of stuff. And it's like
Right.
much more spiritual sounding.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's the same thing. They're
Dude, both worshiping trees.
both worshiping trees.
That's really good.
Right?
I hadn't seen that.
And that's exactly just what Romans 1 says, right? Is that when we exchange the truth of God for a lie, we end up serving and worshiping created things rather than the creator.
Dude, that's an incredible connection.
They all just collapse into each other.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so now here's what's interesting, right? Is even if we go with me on this for a second, even if we put Islam up there,
Okay.
right? So naturalism, rationalism, spiritualism, and even if we threw up like another monotheistic religion like Islam,
Okay.
it still would collapse down into everything as one. And the reason being is because in Islam, God is Allah, but Allah is completely dependent upon creation to be God. So if Islam makes any claim that, so for example, just think about the concept of love. If Islam makes any claim whatsoever that Allah has any love, that he loves people, that he loves people who worship him, for example.
Okay.
Well, that love can only exist if those creatures exist, if that creation exists.
Right.
So without the creation, Allah ceases to be God. He ceases to be Allah because all of his divine attributes are dependent upon his creation.
Yeah.
Only the Christian God, only the one true God, who as Christians we would say is Father, Son, and Spirit.
Yeah.
Right? 3 persons, one God. It's the doctrine of the Trinity. Only the Christian God has complete independence from his creation.
Yeah.
So so the Bible says in 1 John that God is love. And he is love even without and before he creates everything else, because the Father loves the Son. and the Son loves the Father. So that love like is contained within God himself, because he's one God, but he's a community of persons. So Christianity is the only worldview that actually has the creator-creation distinction.
Yeah.
Even the other monotheistic religions in the world collapse everything down into one, because their version of the creator God is dependent upon his creation.
Yeah. Wow.
So it all just collapses into just one.
It all collapses into one category of idolatry.
Right.
That's fascinating.
Right.
I had never made that connection before. Carey, we were talking the other day about the is it the sons of God? Is that the phrase? Elohim in
Genesis.
Psalm 82. Is it Psalm 82?
Psalm 82, yep.
Now, this might be too like super Bible niche nerdville, and so if you're like a normal person, you could maybe just check out at this point. I don't know, but I was finding it very fascinating. You guys were talking about it, and it made me think, gosh, some of these religions that differ from us are close in kind of how they view things in terms of humans being sons of God. Are we gods? Are we sons of God? What's the difference? How is it used in Scripture? Elohim can be singular or plural. It refers to both God and gods. So we were saying, and you kind of got to sharpen the pointer, is that the Bible doesn't say that God's the only God. It says he's the God of gods. He's not the only king. He's the King of kings.
Right.
Now, in one sense, how we define it is, no, he really is the only God.
Yes.
Because he's one of one. So back to our original
Yep.
point. So don't cut up a clip here and make me a heretic. He's one of one. There's creator and there's not creator.
Yep.
There's God and not God. But in their sense, there are these kind of lower realms of divine counsel that he gathers and he talks with. So that's as far as my knowledge goes. I'll stop there. Unpack that a little more. You can get as nerdy as you want to, either one of you, about thoughts you've had, things you teach our students here about the Elohim of God.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Take it.
we'll see how far this goes. So God is the uncreated God. He's the only God.
Yeah.
And he's self-existent, and he's outside of time. And he is the God who created everything else. So, but he created the spiritual realm, and he created the physical realm as well. So in the spiritual realm are demons and angels, and there was a fall that sometime happened before Genesis 3 at some point.
A war in heaven.
Yep. Spiritual war in heaven.
Cosmic rebellion.
There's definitely there's one reality, but there's two realms. And when Christians when Christians believe only one of those, then that's when we get into heresy. We have to believe that there's the spiritual realm and the physical realm as well.
That's an interesting way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Christianity says one reality, two realms. All these other worldviews we put up here emphasize one or the other.
Yeah.
Or deny one or the other.
That's good.
But that's very helpful.
Yep.
Christianity has fully embraces both.
Yes.
Yep.
That's good. That's a good distinction.
And then I don't know. Give me going on the gods or
The gods. So Psalm 82 says
the divine counsel.
the divine counsel. So Psalm 82, it says that God has taken his place in the midst of the gods.
Yes.
And it's the same word. It's Elohim in the midst of the Elohim. And it's Carey's our Hebrew scholar, but it's a plural form word that can, as you said, it can be either singular or plural, just like the English word sheep.
Yep.
Right. So sheep is a plural form word, but it can refer to just one sheep, or it can refer to a flock of sheep. Right. So Elohim's like that. So it depends on the context. And just what Carey is saying, it's singular in the sense that the Lord God, right? Like the Trinitarian,
right.
Father, Son, Holy Spirit, like that God, he is Elohim in a unique sense. But there are also Elohim in a created sense. There are these gods. So what a lot of English translations will do, and it's actually very good, it capitalizes the first God, big G, and then does lowercase for the gods, and that's actually very good. That is getting, I think, in English.
Some translations go angels rather than gods,
Right?
Which I think is it's a deviation from what the author was intending.
Right, because
They are angels, but
the
the Hebrew text says they're gods.
Elohim, right? Same word.
Wow.
So if you're going to be consistent, you would translate it the same way, right? So then some theologians have said, okay, well, this must be some kind of just like poetic way of talking about the Trinity. You know, it's God in the midst of the gods. It's well, first of all, that doesn't work because
let us make them in our image.
There's that, right? Yep, that it's referring back to maybe that in Genesis 1.
But it doesn't work, you said, because
it doesn't work because there's one God, three persons. It's not. We don't say that there's three gods. There's one God, three persons. So it doesn't work for that. But then secondly, if you just keep reading, God,
he's angry with them.
Is angry with them.
Yeah.
Right.
He's angry with himself. Yeah, that's good.
Totally. So the Father's not going to be angry with the Son and the Spirit.
In Psalm 82, Elohim is angry with the Elohim.
He's angry with them.
Yes.
Why are you ruling unjustly?
Yes.
And this is kind of this is sort of another version of what Carey was saying, where some translations will translate it angels.
We are in super nerdville right now.
We're in the deep tracks.
We are in the deep tracks.
We're in.
This is good.
Yeah.
But I need like a cigar or a pipe.
Something.
Yeah,
that could maybe help us out a little bit.
Yeah.
The other translations will say that God has taken his place in the midst of the rulers.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, which is also weak, probably even weaker than translated angels, because they're saying that is
that what the NIV does? I keep interrupting you.
That's actually
because I've read that text and I'm like, well, that makes sense. He takes his place among like the rulers,
earthly rulers. Yeah.
Right.
And so you're saying no, that doesn't work either.
Yeah. I think the NIV gets this one right. I think that might actually be the American Standard that does that one.
Okay.
That does that move. I don't know.
I got you off track. Sorry.
So God has taken his place in the midst of the rulers. Like, well, no.
Elohim. Sheep, gods.
That's right. And the reason why that doesn't work is you keep reading the Psalm. It says there's a threat. There's actually a threat that God gives the other Elohim, and he says, I have called you sons of God. I have told you that you are sons of God. Nevertheless, you're going to die just like mere men. Okay, well, if they were mere men, if they were just mere mortal earthly rulers, that threat would make no sense.
Yeah.
No, the whole reason why that's a threat is because they are actually Elohim. They are actually gods of some kind.
Yeah.
So it's Elohim in the council of the Elohim, and he's angry. Whoever these other Elohim are, he's angry with them. Because they're ruling the nations unjustly.
Yep.
So what does that do with anything? Why should anyone listening care about that?
Well, I think it's because Psalm 82 is the unseen realm version of Psalm 2.
Okay.
Which is the seen. So Psalm 2 is the seen realm version of Psalm 82. It works both ways. So in Psalm 2, God is also there's another rebellion that's going on, and this time it actually is earthly kings.
Yeah.
It actually is earthly rulers, right? Yep. They're raging, they're conspiring. The earthly kings have set themselves up against God. They're wanting to cast off the restraints of his rule and his reign, and God laughs at them, and he's chuckling at them, and he says, well, I've already installed my real king, and of course we know that he's talking about his son, Jesus Christ, and Jesus is going to inherit the nations. So therefore, kings, be wise, be warned, kiss the Son. It's this whole warning to actual literal earthly rulers, you better acknowledge who the King of Kings really is.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think it touches down into the seen realm. The rebellion of the Elohim in the unseen realm is mirrored by human rebellion in the seen realm. And especially, honestly, especially at the national level of things and the political level of things,
yes,
there is more going on. When wickedness and evil are occurring at astronomical, mind-blowing levels, like we've seen in recent days.
That's right.
There's more going on there than meets the eye.
That's really good, Kyle.
Yep.
So that's what I would say.
Yeah,
And
the biblical narrative is that there's two rebellions that have happened. There's the physical rebellion that has happened, but we are spiritual beings as well. But there's also a spiritual rebellion that happened. So I think Genesis 3 is the physical rebellion of humanity, and Genesis 6, which we can get into later, is the spiritual rebellion.
We're doing a podcast on Christian nationalism tomorrow, and the role of the church in politics, the role of the church in a nation. And I do think it's been a demonic ploy to silence the church in speaking authoritatively over those powers of darkness in the world.
Yeah.
That has led to this just horrific state of the church and in our nation. When the church is silent, the nation suffers. God puts the church inside nations to preserve the nations, like salt
Yeah.
preserves food. And so that's really helpful. You're going to say something?
I was just going to say on that note real quickly is like there's this I won't mention his name, but there's this really terrible article that was written 5 years ago that kind of planted the seeds of the whole moral equivalency argument in the church, where it's
by
like,
a pastor.
by a pastor, right? Whereas like, oh well, they're both bad, This side wants to murder babies and mutilate children, and this guy over here sometimes tweets in all caps, and that's mean and arrogant, and that's a deadly sin, and blah blah blah. Right. And so they're both bad, so not going to choose. Right. And one of the things he says, it's horrible. It's awful.
Yeah,
it's
terrible. Yeah.
And one of the things he says in that article is he's like, I want to ask pastors to do this. Go into your study this week and you should contemplate, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, basically saying like, contemplate, have you turned your pulpit into a political soapbox, or have you taught your people to follow, and I quote, this is direct, or have you taught your people to follow another king of another world?
Oh, that's wild.
Ouch.
And he's mean. Now that's a direct quote.
Yeah.
And this guy's written tomes and books and very smart.
Yeah.
My kingdom. Yeah.
Totally. So he's talking about another king of another world. Now, obviously, he's trying to talk about Jesus there.
Yeah.
But the whole underlying assumption there is that Jesus is not the king of this world.
That's right. Wow.
That he actually has no authority here.
Yeah.
It's just, it's like, are we even reading the same Bible? How do you get to that conclusion? Like, how do you read Psalm 2, where it says that where the Father promises Jesus Christ the inheritance of the nations of the earth, and then conclude that he's a king of another world?
See, what's weird about that is I feel like if we sat down with that pastor in my living room and asked him, like, do you really mean this? He'd be like, no. Like I think, of course he's read Psalm 2. He's preached Psalm 2. He's probably written books on Psalm 2. I feel like theologically we would find there is no deviation in what we believe.
Yeah.
We both believe that Jesus is the king of the universe. Okay, good. It's just checking.
Yep.
But then when it comes to this issue of politics,
right,
whether personal baggage or a broken missiology or some inability to connect the dots, that starts breaking and tweaking his theology.
Right.
And I think we're seeing this, like this little Avenger group, we're doing some stuff together, and every time we do a podcast on anything political, it just blows up. We're seeing, I think, thanks to God, a resurgence in young Christian thinkers going, I think disconnecting our Christianity from the rest of our life is a really bad idea.
Yes, totally.
It's like, because if Christianity is merely an intellectual exercise I do on Sundays, I'd rather just watch the football game.
Right.
Yeah.
But if Christianity actually affects, infects, and influences all of my life, it might be worth investigating.
Amen.
And I think that's what Stronger Man Nation is about. No, like Stronger Man Nation is about submitting to the stronger man of the nations.
That's right.
Stronger Man Nation isn't ultimately about us being just randomly like thicker men, with our muscles and our physical makeup. Stronger Man Nation is about convincing as many men as possible to follow the ultimate stronger man.
Amen.
Yep.
And when we say, so stronger man is just another way to say Jesus.
Right.
And we want to be a Jesus nation.
Yep. That's right.
As a community of men. And that's just no way to say the church.
Yep.
Because he's making up a new race, a new people for himself, the church, all those who believe in Christ as the Son of God. And so it's like Stronger Man Nation, there's a lot of levels to unpack how we define Stronger Man Nation. At the very baseline level, it is we want to be a community of men becoming stronger every day, assuming that we haven't ever arrived, but there's always room to improve. But then the question becomes, well, in which direction?
Yeah.
In which way are you trying to get better? Well, we're trying to get better like Andrew Tate. We're trying to get better like Jordan Peterson, get better like Samson. I mean, like what's your historical or current living figure that you're going to look to as a prototype for this stronger man you're wanting to become? And we're saying we want to become stronger men in the lineage and line of the stronger man, Jesus Christ, who is the archetype, who is the perfect example of the kind of men we were made to be in the Creator's image that were placed in the garden. men who are both tough and tender, men who follow in the example of Christ. So
That's right.
having said that, and we should wrap this up here. I'm checking if you're watching, you wonder why I keep looking up here, because I asked the guys to get me a clock in my studio so I can know how long it's going. And in their wisdom, they put it up there. So I'm looking up there. It's very convenient, very non-conspicuous. We'll wrap this up. And we probably shouldn't end by asking you a question, but I had a new insight, a revelation that I called you guys. I was like, is this even right? I don't want to be theologically off here because we don't necessarily have a verse that says this. But my first pillar was God is one of one. Second pillar was there's one reality, two realms, right? For all him, all things created, heaven and earth, visible and invisible. My third pillar was the fall separated the realms.
Right.
Yes.
No, I've never made that assertion before, and I think I could defend it, but I don't necessarily have like a chapter and verse. It makes sense in light of the tying the story together, because what I don't think happened, I was verbally processing with you, Carey, before the sermon. I was like, they could see God, right? I mean, Adam and Eve weren't in the garden, and Satan came embodied in something that they recognized and didn't scare them, to the point you made. I mean, it wasn't like, wow, what is this? A talking snake? It's like, no, I've seen this. And so I think Adam and Eve saw God and however he presented himself, and we're seeing angelic beings. I don't think there was two realms in the garden, because new heavens, new earth is the restoration of the garden, and there will not be two realms in the garden. It won't be like, I'm in heaven now, my spirit has been given the new resurrected body, and where are all the angels? Well, they're up here, you just can't see them. I don't think that's it, right? And so when I said that the fall separated the realms, I mean, I got Bible verses for it. I used Ephesians 2 and others. Agree, disagree? Thoughts, conversation?
Yeah, in Genesis 3, once Adam and Eve sinned and they're kicked out of the garden, God's presence has now been removed from earth, and there's been a separation. So that's why in Genesis 11, Tower of Babel, they try to get to God. They try to get their own way back to the heavens.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Then the temple is built, and then that's when the presence of God lives now in the temple. And it's a literal, it's a traveling RV for the presence of God, wherever the people of God go. So that's where God's presence is on earth, and wherever that is, that place is sacred, even if it's out in the middle of a desert.
Yeah.
So it's the presence of God that makes a place sacred. Ezekiel sees a vision of the presence of God literally leaving the temple because Israel has failed to keep covenant with God.
Interesting.
And that's why when Jesus shows up, then he's literally announcing that the kingdom of heaven is now here, and it's me.
Right.
And I'm now bridging the heaven and earth gap, and God's presence is now here on earth.
Yeah.
And then through his death and resurrection, what Paul gets into in Ephesians and Peter is now that we are the host of the Spirit of God.
Yeah.
So we are filled with the Spirit. Every person is filled with the Spirit. We're filled with the Holy Spirit. And now we are the living temple for God, living and breathing on earth, taking dominion for him, advancing his kingdom and his purposes on the earth, showing the physical realm that the spiritual realm has now been united again to earth.
Wow.
And then Revelation brings it all together to when we finally enter into the new heavens and new earth, and everyone enters into the fourth dimension where we see everything.
Okay,
now.
this fourth dimension thing. What are you going to say something?
No, that was awesome.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
What is the fourth dimension again?
Well, I'm gonna exhaust my knowledge of physics in
the next 10 seconds.
I give myself 30 seconds.
That's longer than I can.
It's 8 seconds longer than I could go.
Okay, so this will probably be pointless in the podcast, but okay, so a point is like zero dimension.
Okay.
A line is
Okay.
one dimension.
Right.
Okay.
Two lines intersecting is now second dimension. I think someone can look this up.
Yeah.
Now, in one dimension, I can't see two dimensions.
Okay.
But as soon as there's two dimensions, you can now see each other. right?
Okay.
But third dimension, so it's now flat. The third dimension is now up, above, beside, around.
Okay.
So, so the third dimension. Okay. So you can.
I like it. No, this is awesome.
This is really going to work on the pod. This will be great. Some guy driving down the road like,
we're just
what?
gonna skip this. We're just gonna skip this. But I'm just gonna go for it anyways.
Yeah, this is
So think
great.
about it. Okay, so
Slow down,
you cannot
Professor.
see the dimension above you, but you can always see dimensions below you.
Okay.
So two dimension is just this. It's just flat.
Okay.
Right.
Uh-huh.
But if you're in the third dimension, where am I? I'm above you, so I can see the third dimension.
Okay.
Right? I can see 2D.
Okay.
Right, or I'm below you.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
The fourth dimension, as far as from what I understand, the fourth dimension is time.
Interesting.
An aspect of the fourth dimension is time. There's other aspects, but the most common is time. So you can enter, you can step out of time and enter back into a time, because time is lineal,
Right.
right? So God has removed from time, so He can step into different places in history. And okay. So just picture a flat surface. This isn't going on the podcast, but we'll just picture a flat surface. Okay.
Who says not going on the podcast?
I like it. This is straight up
Parents, send your
interstellar.
kids here. Pastor Carey can teach them about the fourth dimension as he's learning it. This is great.
Good. Pastor Carey does Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, totally. Pastor Carey does Christopher Nolan impression.
Well, you asked me.
Okay,
So,
yeah. Well,
like
I
it.
thought you
You
talked about it.
started-
Maybe Caleb talked. It's Caleb's fault.
Well, but picture 2D, right? It's just flat.
Yeah.
How do you, if someone was a
Yeah,
2D
on my Google
person,
Maps, it says 2D. And
Yeah.
I'm looking down on top of it, flat.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm tracking
If
now.
someone is in 2D, they're flat, right? How do you imprison someone in a 2D?
Ooh.
You just draw a box around them,
Okay.
right? Because they can't escape.
Incredible. Okay, that was good.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you making this up right now?
But
This
if
is
you're
good.
in, kind of.
Okay.
But if you're in 3D,
Right.
how do you get out of that box?
You just pop out.
you go up.
Up
Right.
or below.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. If you're in 3D, we're in a box right now, right?
Yeah. Cube.
1, 2, 3, 4,
In this
5,
room, you
6.
mean?
Yes.
Yeah, we're in a room. It's got a
it's
floor,
3D,
ceiling,
yeah.
and 4 walls.
Okay. Can you escape from it in the 3D?
Wait, there's a door right there.
Assuming we're all perfectly enclosed. No.
Yes.
Oh, okay, you
Right.
know.
Okay, but how do you escape from it if you're in the 4D?
You go back in time.
You go back in
You
time.
go back.
forward
You
in
step
time.
out of time.
Step out of time.
And you go to a time when you weren't in the box.
Wow.
Let's go. That's incredible.
That just exhausted all my knowledge of physics.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. So,
But so when we see an angel or a demon, they are stepping into the third dimension so that we can see them,
Interesting.
because we
Wow.
can't see into the fourth.
they're in the fourth dimension.
They're in the fourth dimension,
Are
or maybe the fifth or
demons
the
and angels
sixth.
outside of time? I never thought of that. Is that what we're saying?
Well, they're not.
They're not eternal beings.
No.
What do you mean they're not eternal beings? Yeah, they are eternal beings.
Sorry. Yes, they are eternal beings.
Well, they're everlasting, but
were
they're
created.
not. They were created, so
Yeah.
they're not eternal in the way that God is eternal.
They're not infinite.
Yes.
Not infinite. Yeah.
They are. They can't say the one who was is to come.
Right.
They were to come.
But I do think what you're getting at. Is
Well, this would play into like Pastor Mark's New Days Old Demons.
right.
Like
Totally.
the same demons that
Yeah, for
the
sure.
Prince of Persia, Daniel 4, whatever it is. Still wreaking havoc today.
They're immortal.
They're immortal.
They're
yeah.
immortals, but they did come into existence at a particular point.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. And in a certain sense, humans are immortal too.
That's right.
Right. But the same is true about us. Like we had a beginning. We had
Yeah.
God is the only one who doesn't have a definite beginning.
Yeah.
But I was like, I was thinking, I do think you're like what you're getting at. The ultimate example of it is just our relationship with God Himself, right? Because He is. So it's how can the infinite interact with the finite, right? The only way for that to happen is the infinite has to initiate contact,
That's right.
right?
Yep.
If God didn't want to be found, we wouldn't find
That's
him.
right.
That
Right.
kind of concept.
So this is where it's like, so 1 John 4, John says that the ultimate test, how do you test the difference between the spirit of Christ and the spirit of the Antichrist? His ultimate test is, which, I mean, that seems like kind of an important thing. You know what I mean? How do you tell the difference between those two things? Every spirit that denies
Yep.
that Jesus Christ came in the flesh
Right.
is of the Antichrist. So he's pinning everything on the incarnation of God.
Yeah.
God coming down into our realm.
Yeah.
God out of the unseen realm coming into the seen realm.
Wow.
Which I think is like another way of saying what you're saying. Like God is the so in to back to like your point of new heavens and new earth.
Yeah.
There's no more separation there.
That's right.
The finite and the infinite are united.
That's right.
In a way that is truly beyond what we can explain. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's magical.
Yeah.
It's magisterial. It's otherworldly.
Yes.
That's why you watch these Marvel movies and you're like, gosh, I think they're scratching at something there that we're going to experience. Portals of I don't say other realms and dimensions, but like the fourth dimension, the spiritual realm, it's opened up and it's all functioning in one reality.
Right.
That's going to be unbelievable.
Yes.
Absolutely unbelievable.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to wrap this up. If you've got questions and you're listening, you can send them to, where should they tell them to send them, guys?
Description.
Look in the description. We'll send them there. Send us your questions. Angels, demons, the paranormal, nature of spiritual
Fourth
warfare.
dimension. Better understandings
dimension.
of physics.
All your questions about physics that you'd like
That you
Carey
want me to answer.
That you'd like Carey to answer. He's going to be here waiting
good.
to tap into AI for your answer. It's going to be a good conversation. Thanks for joining us today, guys. It's going to be fun. Stay strong in the third dimension.
Stay strong.
Hey everyone, Pastor Josh here. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to rate the podcast, review, follow, and share. And if you want to support Stronger Man Nation, you can go to strongermannation.com/give to help keep unwoke, uncensored, straight talk Bible teaching coming to you for free.